This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to today's hearing and for all the support Canada has given the people of Ukraine. I represent the International Institute for Sustainable Development, working from Geneva, where since last year I lead the work on a sustainable recovery of Ukraine. I also represent Ukraine's largest environmental NGO, Center for Environmental Initiatives EcoAction, as its board member and one of the founding members. I'm a Ukrainian myself with a background in energy and environmental policy, and it's these two topics, energy and environment, I would like to touch upon in my short statement today. A few days ago, Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, said that we are preparing for the worst winter in our history. Ukraine is a big country, and protecting the highly centralized energy system and all the power plants from Russia's terrorist attacks is a complicated task, especially without sufficient air defense. So this is a matter of our survival. But there is another midterm perspective we should also be looking at, ways to transform the Ukrainian energy system into a more decentralized and a more resilient one to avoid big future disruptions. Recently, 50 Ukrainian municipal leaders signed a letter to the US government requesting support for communities in Ukraine, especially in the form of renewable energy technologies. Indeed, we see through our work that many Ukrainian cities consider solar panels, storage systems, heat pumps as effective solutions to improve local energy security. The first pilot projects of this kind, mostly implemented with support of NGOs and international partners, started appearing around the country in autumn last year. Communities are, of course, given priority to modernizing the energy systems, which are supporting critical infrastructure facilities such as hospitals, water supply systems, schools, and so on. However, the financial mechanisms available to implement such projects are limited for the moment, and this is where some Canadian support would be most valuable. And this transformation of the energy system, which is also embedded in the new energy strategy of Ukraine by 2050, goes beyond decentralized energy production. It's also a way to decarbonize the economy, create new jobs, and support local production of green technologies and materials, which are required for the energy transition, not only in Ukraine, but also worldwide. Since 2017, together with colleagues from EcoAction, we have been working with coal mining communities in the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine on their just transition away from coal. Most of them were keen to see their economies diversified and transformed into more sustainable ones. The city of Vuhledar, with enough coal to last for decades, provided impressive leadership in these debates. Vuhledar now lies in ruins, completely destroyed by Russia, with its coal mines flooded, just like many neglected mines in Ukrainian territories controlled by Russia since 2014. Flooding of coal mines leads to grave consequences, including soil and water pollution and others. And the Ukrainian government estimates the overall cost to the environment from the war to be more than 70 billion Canadian dollars. And this is just since February 24th of last year. The scale of the damage is enormous, and substantial resources are, of course, needed to analyze, to monitor and remediate the pollution, and to deal with many other types of damages to the environment. Ukraine will need significant support with this throughout the years to come. And finally, the Kakhovka Dam destruction in June 23 became one of the most consequential events in terms of the scale of its impact on people and the environment. The destruction resulted in flooded cities, hundreds of thousands of people with limited access to fresh water, mines and pollution washed into the sea, and increased risk to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant occupied by Russia, an ecocide. But the area where Kakhovka Reservoir used to be is now becoming a young forest. So this is incredible. And researchers are calling for a careful examination of options that needed for reconstruction of the dam to make sure that we don't repeat mistakes of the past and build back better. Ukrainians want to build back better. They want to rebuild, and they started rebuilding as soon as the first cities and regions were liberated in the end of last year. We want to build a more sustainable future. So since Canada is already planning to assist Ukrainian communities in making an inclusive recovery, attention should also be given to ways Ukraine could transition to a green economy. Only a strong and prosperous Ukraine could provide security for its people and Europe. I thank you for attention and glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ackerman. Your timing was perfect. We were just a few seconds short of the 5-minute opening remarks. So,
just one quick comment I wanted to make. I mean, we talk about food insecurity and the need to invest in food insecurity, and I think Mr. Beasley, who was the past head of the World Food Program, said it best when he said that you have the opportunity to pay for people to pay now or to pay 1,000 times more down the road. So just something I wanted to reiterate. Ms. Ackerman, I wonder if I could ask you a few questions, or a question. You spoke about the need to rebuild Ukraine. I was in Ukraine in March. I spoke to members of the government who were very, very eager to rebuild. But you speak about the need to rebuild in a green and sustainable way and how important that is for Ukrainians. And from my perspective, it would be a mistake to rebuild using old technologies that are not forward-looking. I wonder if you could just take a moment to tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Thank you for this question. That's absolutely the case. As I said, Ukrainians want to build back better. We are already designing a system, as we also have many questions about, how transparent the process be, how good it will be made. And anybody can go now to the website called dream.gov.ua, where all of the reconstruction projects will be stored in one place and accessible to everyone, so that anybody could see at any moment, from community launching the project till the end, how it looks like, who is implementing it, and what is the final result. And the standards that Ukraine has at the moment, are construction standards, building standards, they're okay. But of course, if we build in for the next generations, and this is something that I was mentioning, right, with renewable energy, with autonomous housing and so on, we don't really yet have the examples to follow. We have the EU standards, which we need to implement in the coming years, and it will be a big, big job now, of course, as Ukraine is following the path of integration into the EU. And this is something where we really need support. If we think about any passive building, for example, building that does not consume energy thanks to renewables and so on, we don't have a single example yet in Ukraine of such a building. So if we want to build for the future, we need to be thinking together, and we already have some great cooperation happening and some big general plans being developed at the moment. For example, the southern region of Mykolaiv is working with Denmark on rebuilding the region and the city that was heavily destroyed, with many public buildings destroyed and so on. And they are thinking about rebuilding, they are rethinking the city, how to rebuild it, how to change the concept of what the city actually is. And this is what we need. Of course, some of the cities, not all of the cities in Ukraine are destroyed at all. Many are already there. So we have to be thinking about more things like energy efficiency and so on. And one more last thing is that we have to be thinking about the new economy for Ukraine. This is why I was mentioning the concept of the green economy for Ukraine, to not get stuck in things that we've been producing already for many years, for decades, but to make sure that we are moving forward. And what that actually means, I think we don't yet have the clarity. And this is where we have to have these conversations, and international partners should also be able to, could contribute to actually make sure that we understand what Ukraine could be producing, again, for us and for the world. And as the reconstruction will be a big scale project for everyone, this is where we could also put the hands on and see how this could develop.
I'm afraid we're out of time, Ms. Ackerman.
Thank you very much.